welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. This week in our Women Thought Leader series, we have Amala Ekpenobi. Ekpenobi is a 21-year-old social media influencer and Prager Force member.
Welcome to Will and Amala Live.
Prager is a media company that creates videos on various political, economic, and social topics from a conservative viewpoint. Ekpenobi, who used to be an advocate for the left, now works for the right and has a podcast. So, Amala, welcome very much to this program. Please tell our audience what you do and well, let's start with your background.
So I was born into a biracial household. My father is a Nigerian immigrant. My mother is American, white. And throughout the duration of my young childhood, I was raised in a leftist household. My mother is a political activist. She actually works for the left. Growing up as a young person, I was always made well aware of what it meant to be black or half black and female in America. And that held a sort of connotation that I was going to struggle a little bit more than white people would, and specifically white males. So I grew up with that narrative not only in my household, but I got it through the news and social media, and I was hearing it in school in a lot of my teachings. And as a young person, that's going to make you harbor a lot of anger towards not only this country, but its institutions and systems, because I was told that through the narrative that these institutions and systems were pitted against me from the very foundation and their very creation. So I was an angry young person. I went through middle school and high school, and I was the kid who would organize protests and yell about my political beliefs. And when I graduated high school, I was so good at running my mouth about these things that I got hired at my mother's organization as a youth organizer. So I was running around talking to young people about socialism and gender theory and radical feminism and systemic racism and just pushing the narrative further. I was indoctrinated. I went to indoctrinate other young people. And after about a year or so of doing that job, there was definitely chinks in the armor of the ideology that I held that I was beginning to question. And I brought these questions to the people at my organization, my coworkers, my bosses, my supervisors, and they didn't want to answer my questions. And I think that's pretty emblematic of where we are as a country. Nobody wants to have the tough conversations, and nobody wants to truly find truth. And as a young person, I went to the internet to find answers. And I found PragerU videos and Tom Sowell and Dave Rubin and all these amazing conservatives who were making splashes in the space, and realized that maybe I was not on the right side of history. And about a year or so after that, I started making videos on the internet that went viral out of nowhere, and PragerU picked me up. So here we are.
Now, it's certainly understandable that you would find problems with the far left ideology when you're including socialism. But why? If you admit to yourself that there are extremists on both sides who are damaging the public dialogue, damaging the ability of Americans to get along, why do you feel that the right extreme is any less a part of the major problem with America?
I do think the right extreme has a massive problem, especially when it comes to communicating what they believe. I wouldn't identify myself as a member of the far right extreme group by any means. I find myself to be what I guess people would call a moderate conservative. I think what people do with PragerU is they look at our videos, look at our content, and they make an assumption that we are somehow some far-right extremist media company, but I wouldn't call us that whatsoever.
I don't know about the company, but I'm just asking you in particular, do you support former President Trump?
In many ways, I do. I don't think his rhetoric or his mouth came to help him in any way, shape, or form, but I do think there was a lot of policies that he instituted during his presidency that was quite helpful. We saw an economic boom during his presidency. I think what we focused on a lot and what he got himself in trouble with is his, again, rhetoric, his mouth. I don't think he was a proper communicator, and I think you show a troubled country when someone like that is the president of the United States.
Okay, and he's going to run again, it seems like, in 24. What do you think will happen to democracy if he wins?
I think we're going to see some very, very polarized times. I don't see the divide being mended on either side. I don't see a lot of effort to mend the divide on either side. And if we get a second Trump presidential run, which I hope we do not, I think the polarization is only going to continue, and everybody's going to contribute to it. It's the people who support him. It's the mainstream media who chooses to run propaganda rather than truth. And it's the people on the far left who shout out about patriarchy and racism when there's very little evidence to support those claims. I think we're going to see